This is an extract from a 1-hour interview. To watch the full interview, you can click below to join the Get Gallery Ready course. Until then, enjoy the video. Hi, Sara. Thanks for joining.
Problem at all.
To quickly introduce you, you were born in Wales and now you live and you work in London, predominantly in drawing and print. And your practice, as we can see behind you, is all about the landscape. So you've got both drawing and prints in the studio. And yeah, I'm excited to speak to you. Tell me a bit about your work.
Okay, so it's always been landscape. I spend a fair bit of time sort of walking in landscape, being there and drawing from it, taking notes. And that is a very crucial aspect of my work. I also spend sort of extended time in the studio making works, but being within a landscape is a very important part of it for me. And somehow or other ended up with works on paper. In a way, I try to think about it as some of it is individual pieces and some of it is printed work. And the individual sort of one-off pieces are mostly now pastel on paper. So it's soft pastel rather than oil pastel. And then the print for a little while now has been sort of techniques borrowed from the Japanese tradition. So it's hand printed rather than through a press. I'm so slow at making work. Learn to accept it as opposed to beat myself up the whole time. It takes me a long time to make work.
So tell me about your creative relationship with your gallery. How does that take place? How do you work together?
Meryl is a creative in her own right. So I think she understands practice quite well. She knows how to leave people be. She will also be involved in creating inspirational times. The gallery itself is rather inspirational, particularly for someone like me, because it's in the centre of a farm. So the land around it is special. I first went to the gallery because Meryl invited me to be artist in residence there. And so I worked for about, I don't know, a year and a bit from that landscape itself. And there was a solo show at the end of that. And I'm still there, so something's working. But also she organised, a few years back, she organised for a residency in Venice. So 3 of us went and worked in Venice, something I know I would not have done without her input. We stayed in the most extraordinary apartment within an old palace overlooking the north part of Venice. And the work that came from that was extraordinary. So those sorts of things, that's an incredibly creative thing to do. I did a rather amazing trip to India with her. So, you know, she's very supportive of us all going off and doing things and bringing that experience back. Sometimes it leads to work and sometimes it doesn't. And of course, the relationship you also end up with the other artists at the gallery is also supportive and creative and fun. It's nice to meet up with people and talk about what we're all working on, and often there's a deadline that we're all trying to get to. All of that is very useful and helpful, I think.
For anybody watching who doesn't know Rabley Gallery yet, it was established in 2005 and the main gallery is based in Wiltshire, so in the UK countryside, about 90 minutes out of London. And they also take part in national fairs in London, but also international in New York and other places. It's an interesting sort of model of gallery as well, being in the countryside, bringing collectors to the countryside. And now, how does your relationship work in terms of, does Rabley Gallery represent your work exclusively, or do you show work elsewhere, or do you sell work elsewhere?
I feel pretty loyal to to Merrill and to Rabley, mostly there. But some other shows, I've just had a work in a group show in the sort of two of the selling spaces within the Royal Academy. I apply for the summer exhibition each year, and so there are sales there. So I do show work elsewhere, but it has to be particular circumstances, if that makes sense. So I was in a show at Pallant House Gallery. It wasn't a selling show, but that came about because of my relationship with Merrill, and it's all pretty much connected to Rabley. And as I said, I feel hugely loyal to that.
We talked a bit about artwork sales and what that means to support your practice. So, for instance, does Merrill ever have a conversation with you about how to price the work?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very helpful in that. I think we're artists hopeless at that. You like it? Oh, you can have it. No, I think, no, very, very involved in setting the ballpark of it all.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that artists find very difficult, but I mean, if people come to me, I send them to Merrill, because I would much prefer to be making work than meeting people and having to get it all together and then talk about money and all of that. Much better for it to go to the gallery and get sorted that way around.
So in that sense, whenever talk comes of a sale, you say, yeah, that's amazing. The work is available. Call my gallery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a very nice thing to be able to do.
One of the last things I wanted to pick your brains about is I know that a lot of our folks watching, they'll probably have been making art all their life, but they might not have been working as a professional part-time or full-time artist. And they may be worried that it's too late, and that if you're an artist in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or beyond, then a gallery might not be interested in your work. What's been your experience with ageism, which can be real in the art world?
I think the paramount thing is the work, who you are, to a certain extent, what sex you are, how old you are. That's all secondary stuff. The biggest thing, I think, is focus on making the best work you can. Don't try and do it all in one piece, because you can't say everything that you want to say in one piece. And if there comes a stage in making work where you have to think, okay, that's all I can do in that piece, and then use that as a trigger to make another piece. And then try and show it. But you can't show head work. You know, work that you've made in your head. Can't show that to anybody. And I think the work is the most important thing. Everybody that I have a lot of respect for, actually the thing that they really love doing is being in their studio working. Of course, we all love also being out for an opening night and dressing up and having a glass of fizz and having a great time, but that's not very often. What you've really got to focus on is making the work and then trying to let people see it. And that's exposing and scary and hurtful and costly sometimes and difficult. But if what you want is to have an association with the gallery, you have to get used to that feeling of feeling exposed. And we all feel it. Just because I've been working with a gallery for more than 10 years doesn't mean that when my show that's up at the moment opened, I think, oh God, you know, it's scary. It's scary, but there we are. It's also done and up there. That's a massive achievement, even if everybody ignores it, which they thankfully have not. I think we'd all go a bit doolally if we didn't make work, which is why people make work, as you say, for their whole lives. maybe not showing very much, maybe not showing at all, but that's what defines them, and that's a very important thing to acknowledge. And so finding methods of showing is a really helpful aspect to it.
Yeah.
You've got to finish the work first.
You know, sometimes you're in your own way and the work is in your head and it's looking perfect in your head. So it's terrifying to grab a pencil or to
Turn up on the page.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you for watching this clip from our interview. To watch the full 1-hour interview and get practical advice to work with galleries, then click the link below and join the Get Gallery Ready course. This in-depth course for artists includes 5 sessions covering everything you need to know about galleries, 5 interviews with artists sharing their top tips with you, and 5 interviews with gallery directors so you can hear directly what they look for, how to approach them, how to get represented by a gallery, and so much more. Until then, we hope you enjoyed this video and you can click below to learn more and get started.